Hello, everyone, and welcome back to What's Your Mess? Mental, Emotional, Social Status of Life. I am your host, Tracy D. Armstrong, and today we are going to embark on another journey with a new special guest as she comes on today to share her experiences that has shaped her life. So let's welcome to the microphone our next guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi there. So I'm Amanda McKinley. I'm a wellbeing and creativity coach from Paisley, which is a town just outside Glasgow in Scotland. And the practice I run, I have been doing for 5 years now, and it all came from my own health journey, my own mess, and led to me wanting to be passionate about helping other people, and I'm here to share my story in the hope of helping some other people too.
Well, that is awesome. That is so awesome. And to start off, let's tell everybody a little bit about what your mess is and was and how you were able to overcome. But what was it?
So back in May 2009, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. For anyone who doesn't know what the condition is, they believe it's a neurological condition. So it's almost as if someone has taken the pain receptors in your brain, turned the volume all the way up, and then ripped the knob off. So, if you stub your toe on a table, for you, it'll hurt for a few minutes. You might curse a little bit, then it's all good. For me, if I do that same bump, I can be in pain for hours. It could trigger a flare of symptoms. So it's really complicated. You may hear me stammer occasionally. It also causes some cognitive issues. I don't hide them anymore. I authentically embrace that. So as I say, chronic pain condition. I was a care assistant in an elderly facility at that time. That care work was the only work I had ever wanted to do. I, rather stupidly in hindsight, worked on complete denial of how ill I was, just how the situation was, worked on for 2 years after the diagnosis, until I came to the point of just complete rock bottom. If I wasn't at work, I was home in bed. And I had the moment of having to make that decision to leave and give that up. So from that point, completely emotionally, mentally, physically broken, and thinking there was no hope, no anything. And we're now 15 years down the line. I'm a completely different, fortunate enough through a number of different right place, right time things, and learning that people can only say no when you ask things, to be kind of where I am now, which is, touch wood, condition reasonably well managed, still have symptoms, but managed to do things to stay on top of it. And as I say, now kind of out in the world, kind of, I suppose, leaning a hand back sort of thing, to people that maybe are same condition or other stuff going on, just to shine a light sort of thing, give a little bit of hope, I think.
Wow. Wow. And I'm going to pause there because I want to go back because you unpacked a lot right there. And I just want to go back so that the audience can really
Yeah.
understand what you're saying you went through. Because first, I'm going to talk about how that could have affected you mentally, because you said it's like they turned the pain level up in your brain. And I can just imagine if I stump my toe, oh, it's going to hurt, but it's an excruciating pain. Mentally, how did that affect you?
I think the hardest thing mentally is you look okay. Nothing, you're going to doctors, nothing showing up in tests, there's nothing physically showing this stuff's happening. So there's elements of disbelief. You start doubting yourself sometimes. I was quite lucky that my doctor, my GP, as we say over here, was quite aware of the condition and was trusting of me, that no, we do need to investigate this further and get you this diagnosis. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia within 2 years. That's quick. There are people who are 5, 10 years down the line. There are people with fibromyalgia symptoms that never get a diagnosis because of the complexities of it. And I know that's the case this side of the pond and in the States.
Wow. So you had a really good doctor because they believe
Yeah.
that you're like, I'm not just,
Yeah.
I'm not, I know what I'm talking about. It's like something is wrong.
It's like there's a thing of like it's all in your head, and well, it was, but it wasn't a mental health thing. It was it was a physical thing. So yes, it was up here, but I wasn't imagining it, and I don't know why anyone would.
Exactly. Wow. And no problem. And now I'm going to ask you about your emotions because I heard you say you kind of started to feel hopeless, and
Yeah.
that is a very emotional state. So,
Mm-hmm.
how did that affect you emotionally?
As I say, doing the care work I was doing, I had only ever wanted that sort of career path. That was all I had ever seen myself doing from a young age. From like high school, all the qualifications I had were for that area of work. It absolutely broke my heart to have to leave it. You become connected to the residents and the elderly folk you're working with. I loved the job. I was passionate about it. So it's like it's a grief, because you have to grieve for that old life. You have to grieve for that all that loss. It's nobody died, but it's still a death of that person, of that version of yourself. So it's that loss of just being, as I say, physically broken, feeling useless, feeling you're letting people down. That whole thing of it just being, as I say, a physical emotional train wreck.
I was just thinking in like an emotional roller coaster, and like you said, a train wreck. Yes, because you said it's not a physical death, but it's a death of that version of you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, that is really true. Like if that's all you've ever done, and that's what you know, and you have to sacrifice that, unexpectedly, that, and oh my gosh, and feeling hopeless, and like you're losing that whole part of you. I can imagine that. And so with that, socially, you said you would go to work and then you would go home and go to bed because
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
how did that affect you socially?
I've never been really one for kind of big nights out socially and all that. I've always had a very small circle of friends. But it still impacts on that, because you're having to rely on your friends even more, for different things. My best friend and her husband, have always been great at kind of supporting me. And, if I need to just chill and go rest, go with them. Same with, family, so, but it's still, you don't, you have to plan everything out. You either have to go, okay, just flat out, no, I don't have the energy for that. Or is this more the case now? It's a case of, okay, if I want to do that, then, if I want to do that socially and I want to go to that thing, then it has to be planned out almost like a military operation of, okay, so it'll take me X amount of time to get there. I'll need X amount of time to rest before I get there. Once I'm there, if it gets too noisy, that's going to be tiring, so I'll have to leave. And then of course you go the whole thing of, okay, if I have to leave, old me would be, if I have to leave somewhere, what are people going to think? If I have to call in sick to work, what are they going to say? What are they going to, there's that whole, again, the whole cycle of the things you tell yourself that just add to the emotional and the mental stuff.
Exactly. Yes. And I can picture like all the logistics. You had to have everything mapped out before even going to an event instead of just
Mhm.
saying, oh, okay, you want to go here? Okay, let's go. You had to like, okay, plan it. And then
Mhm.
and then having to leave if if it gets too loud, oh my gosh, I know that really does affect you socially. And so with all of that being said, your status of life, like you still had friends and you had to leave your job. Like how did your status of life change altogether?
Well, after having left the care home, took a couple of years to try and kind of find a job in a similar field, similar support work or something like that, and that didn't happen. And I had always said, kind of in the background, one day, thinking when I was old and grey and retired, I would do creative stuff and I would open a shop somewhere and sell my arts and crafts stuff. And after all this job stuff wasn't happening, something in my brain, I've had a few of these kind of light bulb moments, and something in my brain went, what if this is the one day? What if this is what you were waiting for? And I've got quite a strong spiritual side, so I kind of tapped into some of that, looked for some guidance in that way, and then fortunately, again, things fell into place. I had, the way the social security system works over here, I was seeing a disability employment advisor, and she found out about a program for self-employed people. So she had me she helped me get on this program and put things in place. So that started the kind of the build up again of, you know, changing things around in terms of work stuff anyway.
And that was going to be my next question. My next question for you was going to be, after all of that, and you got the diagnosis, you went through those experiences, you're on the roller coaster, and you just was explaining how someone helped you start the
Mm-hmm.
trend back up. So, how did you come out of the mess, quote unquote, that you were in at that moment?
So it was two light bulb moments. One that I just touched on with the career stuff of maybe this is the one day I was looking for. Secondly, from the medical point of view, back to the doctors and stuff again, I was on a lot of medication. Heavy duty painkillers, opiate medication, a lot of strong stuff. And I was still having pain. I was still having issues. And I had that thing of, if this is me for the rest of my life, there has got to be another way to do this. And I was fortunate again that I'd been told about this place in Glasgow that was an integrative care facility uh, on the National Health Service. Thank you. Thank you for having the fact that we have the National Health Service in this country. So I was referred, yeah. So again, my GP that I spoke about referred me to this place. I did a lot of work there around cognitive behavioural therapy, mindfulness. So a lot of kind of fixing the things up here, realizing how much of my own behavior and patterns and being a chronic people pleaser fed into the condition, and in the early days of having the condition fed into making the symptoms worse. So from there I built up a better mindset with things, which makes, for me anyway, makes coping with the physical stuff easier. It makes saying no to people easier. You don't have to, going back to the social stuff, if you don't want to go somewhere, you don't go. You don't have to feel guilty. If it's not for you, it's not for you. So it helped me build that stuff up. And as I was building the things up there, and the self-employment and the artist side of things was ticking over, I became more and more aware of the therapy, the well-being side of things that I was working on, and that started creeping into my work and started kind of blending. And then that kind of changed the business, because not everyone gets referrals to that place. And if people have to go privately looking for this stuff, it's very, very expensive. Often the holistic well-being stuff, the people that need it the most are the people with the least amount of income. Yep. So I became passionate about making things available to people for low cost, for free sometimes, just to kind of, as I said earlier on, about to reach a hand back. It's, look, I'm not promising cures. I'm not saying this is definitely an answer, but maybe it's a little bit of hope. Maybe it's something that can just give you a tool to dig your way out of this hole.
Yes, and as you were talking about all of the different things that you did, and you mentioned mindset, and you mentioned also, you said that your way you were thinking was causing a lot of the physical aspects also. And as far as like the people pleasing, that one right there, I was like, because some people are always trying to please others. And if you don't want to go, you don't have to go.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And once you learn that, and once you really get that mindset that it is okay to say no to others, it really made your life a lot easier to deal with it.
Yeah, the thing to remember about people pleasing is we are people too. Sometimes we need to please ourselves.
Yes, we do. That's why I completely agree. And they don't, and people don't sometimes. People put themselves off as if they are not people also. And always trying to please others. And that does affect you mentally.
An important analogy, if you're on a plane and it is in danger and the oxygen mask drop down, you are told, even if you have children with you, to put your mask on first.
Yep.
So if in that life or death situation, it is okay to put yourself first, why isn't it okay just a normal, ordinary day?
Talk about it. That's right. Because if you don't put your mask on first, how can you take care of anybody else that may be going through? And like you said, if it's that important in a life or death situation, it should be that important in everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
You better talk about it. So, what advice would you give? Because all of that was great advice. But if someone is going through, and I really want to kind of focus on if someone's going through a physical or medical challenge in their life, similar to what you may have been going through, what advice would you give to them in order for them to live a better life like you're doing?
Oh, this is a tricky one, because, as I say, I know I was lucky. I had medical people who believed me. I had access to the right support. I know that's not the case for everyone. So I'm aware I'm speaking from a place of privilege. But do what you can for you. Going back to what we said about the oxygen mask, do what you need to do for yourself. Look after yourself first and foremost. Other people's expectations, other people's needs, whatever, is secondary. You matter first, foremost, and always. And then, so take care of you. If people don't believe you, that's on them. Wherever possible, find the way, through support groups, alternative therapies, whatever it may be. Just find your path. Be open to different maps. Just find your path. and trust that it's there.
That's good. Find your path, trust that it's there, and support. You did say support groups. I think that's a really good one too, because
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you feel like you were very privileged to be able to have the people that you did have, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone doesn't have that privilege. However, there are support groups out there. Are there any particular places that you might be able to suggest, maybe where people might find support groups?
You can. There are some on social media. It can be difficult because some of them are not as mindset focused and not as education focused. Some of them can be quite, whose symptoms have the worst, are the worst. And if your symptoms don't fit, it's almost a competition for who's got it hardest instead of how can we help each other. A regular one I see in some of the support groups is Lady Gaga getting such a hard time because she is able to access support and help for her condition. Because Lady Gaga has fibromyalgia.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So yeah. Uh, another famous person from the States that has it, Morgan Freeman.
Didn't know that either. Wow,
Yeah.
did not know
So
that.
now I know over here the national support charity is Fibromyalgia Action UK. I believe in the States it's the National Fibromyalgia Association.
Okay. And I'll make sure that I put that,
Yeah.
I'll put it in there at the end for everybody if you want to go and take a look at it. Give you access to that. And are you doing anything to help promote or connect with people, products, or any type of information to offer anyone?
Um, Shameless promotion coming up, but you did ask.
Come on, bring it
I
on.
I in February of this year, I self-published a book. It's called How I Became a Butterfly: Creative Tools for Coping with Life and Chronic Illness.
Yeah.
And it covers my story, my journey, and then there is a whole second half of all the things that have helped me. So things like meditation and mindfulness, working with crystals, working with essential oils, all of that stuff, just that people can kind of, again, start to pick and choose, try some stuff out, build their own toolbox. So that's out. And it's available via Amazon because I self-published using their setup, so it's available on there.
Okay. Amazon. And can you say the name one more time?
Yep, it's How I Became a Butterfly.
How I Became a Butterfly. I love it. I love the title. And then you had your subtitle, How to
Yeah.
Deal with.
So the
Go ahead.
subtitle is the subtitle is Creative Coping Tools for Life and Chronic Illness.
Wow, I love it. I will most definitely make sure that I post it so that the audience can go and check it out, go and purchase it, go and support you. Are you on social media platforms?
Yep. Facebook, you will find it under the Butterfly Room Paisley, and on Instagram and on YouTube, you'll find it under Amanda Butterfly Room.
Okay, awesome. And before we wrap up today, I just want to thank you again for coming on and for sharing your story. I know that someone's going to hear this story and be encouraged by your words, and it's going to cause them to be more mindful of themselves and to hopefully come out of their situations. And are there any last words of encouragement that you'd like to leave?
I think just to anyone who's going through, whether it's physical, mental, please know that there's always hope. There is always someone who will want to listen. And just, if all you can do is put one foot in front of the other and just keep breathing, that's what you do. Just keep breathing one moment to the next, and you will get there.
Yes, keep breathing. In through the nose and out through the mouth. I tell my students that all the time. When you're feeling overwhelmed, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Keep breathing. So, as we wrap up another episode of What's Your Mess, I want to leave you with this powerful quote that I always like to leave you with every episode. If you want to stay sad, keep thinking about the past. If you want to be anxious or worried, think about the future. But if you want to be happy, focus on the present day and be grateful for what you have. Again, this is Tracy D. Armstrong with What's Your Mess? Have a good one, y'all.